Today what we're going to be doing is covering session 3, BIM 360 design. It's how to set up BIM 360 design, get rolling with it, and understand what it does. This is the third part of our seminar series. If you're not familiar with Microdesk, we are an AECO technology consulting firm. We've been around since '94. We have 13 locations in the US, our office in the UK, and we've worked on projects and have people who work for us all over the world. A little bit about us is we focus a lot these days on some major aspects of where things are going, the globalization. More and more people are moving towards cities, or the urbanization of how everyone is working and moving to the urban centers, and also focusing on sustainability, both from a technology standpoint as well as the construction side. The things that we actually offer to our clients is we are a full service consulting team. So we work with designers, we work in construction, we work in operations from the earliest iteration of a design, whether it's for a building, infrastructure, you name it, we can be a part of that and help out. And our team allows us to do that. Everybody on our team has a background in the industry, having actually worked in the field, whether it's for coordination, construction, mechanical design, engineering, a little bit of everything. So we offer a lot of different aspects that we can help out with our clients to make sure that they're being successful and that they're helping define themselves and differentiate themselves against their competitors. With that in mind, we work with a lot of the industry-leading companies as partners, Autodesk being the one that most people are familiar with, but we also work with IBM, Panzura, Esri, Enscape, Plannerly, Unify. We're starting off with Unity now as well. And we're always looking to grow this so that way we can work with more companies and offer more services to our clients to make sure that regardless of what tools they're using, we're better prepared to help them. Leading the presentation today is going to be myself. I'm the Senior Technology Evangelist at Microdesk. I've been in the industry for 25 years now, worked as an architect for 10 years before moving on to the consulting side. I lead a lot of the emerging technologies, and I focus on administration and management of a lot of our BIM 360 services these days as well. So basically looking at new technology and finding out, is it neat and new, or is it actually useful, and how can we take advantage of using it for more than even its initial intent. Now, today's agenda is we're going to be going over BIM 360 design, touch on what it is, how it works, what it works with, how to actually set up and get in there, and how you can use it to collaborate. And we're going to have Q&A at the end, but if anybody has any questions throughout the course of this webinar, please feel free to drop them into the questions window for GoToWebinar. I'll be keeping an eye on that, and I'll be answering it as we go through if I can. If it's something that I know I'm going to be touching on a little bit later on, or it doesn't quite fit in at the moment, I'll make sure I answer it at the end though. But definitely feel free to drop that in there. Now, before we get rolling, I always like to just ask a couple of quick basic questions for my audience. So I'll do this now. So quick one here is, what is your role? We always like to understand who it is that we're talking to and make sure that we're giving out information and covering topics that are relevant to you. So first one, basically, are you a designer? Are you a CAD manager, finance team, that kind of thing? Yeah. Awesome, thank you. Next one here is, are you currently using BIM 360 services? So whether it's the classic services, the next gen services, just looking to see if you're actually using this already. All right, so far it's a no. This will all be new for you then. Okay, and last one here, are you currently using any cloud or mobile tools? So tools that can help you get out into the field with your content, whether it's PDF, actual CAD or Revit files, viewing it, or using the cloud to work with others or share or coordinate. Awesome, I'd like to see the yeses. Perfect. So let's get rolling. So the BIM 360 workflow series that we are in the process of is going to be touching on all the different aspects of BIM 360. And rather than trying to do a demo of the product, what we've been doing is focusing on different aspects of the process. So far we've gone through how to set up and get access to BIM 360, how to set up your project. Today what we're going to be doing is talking about the BIM 360 design service, specifically for setup and usage. The next one we'll be doing is on the model coordination aspect, then the build platform, mobile aspects, and operations. Now, in terms of BIM 360, if you're not familiar with it, BIM 360 is Autodesk's cloud coordination platform, and it has a bunch of different aspects to it. So it's not any one specific thing. I always try to reference it. It's like Microsoft Office 365. When you mention that to somebody, one person might immediately think of Outlook, another one might think of Excel, another one might focus on Word, depending on what their roles are. BIM 360 and overall Autodesk's construction cloud, the umbrella that all their construction cloud services fit under, like Assemble and PlanGrid and Building Connect, all of those are different tools that you can take advantage of depending on the point in time on the project and also what services that you need to render. Okay. Today we're going to be focusing on the design package of BIM 360. So this includes the document management, which we touched on last week with the project setup, and includes the design collaboration components, of which we have the Revit Cloud Work Sharing, collaboration for Civil 3D, and collaboration for Plant 3D. There's also the collaboration for Revit, or C4R, which is the classic version of that. Now, in terms of what is BIM 360 design, easiest way to look at it is it's the cloud collaboration platform. So for tools like Revit, Civil 3D, and AutoCAD Plant 3D, this is a tool that's going to enable us to actually collaborate with others. In the case of Revit, it's controlled cloud work sharing. So rather than having our central model or what we're using for our work sharing, we're going to, on a local device, whether we have to VPN in or a remote desktop or do something along those lines, now we're taking it and we're putting it online. So I can access it from anywhere in the world. In the case of Civil 3D, this allows us to do something similar. It's not going to suddenly turn an AutoCAD file into a work shared file. But what it does do is it allows me to put all that content online. It's going to manage all my data shortcuts, all my external references, and it's going to automate the file locking for me. So if I open up a file, it will then lock it, kind of like a check-in, check-out in a way, to ensure I don't have to worry about any issues with whoever saves last as the one whose edits stay. It's going to maintain that control. Plant 3D is something similar. So that actually has a real check-in, check-out function of the files. So I can actually work on the files, I can streamline the approval workflows, and I can make sure it's very easy to share and collaborate. And the nice thing is for 2021, they actually have a lot of features now that allow me to work back and forth between Plant 3D and Revit. Now, these are the three tools that currently are integrated with BIM 360 Design. Now, the version of this does matter a little bit, and all of these are taking advantage of the Autodesk desktop connector to ensure that you can share your files and have access to the content that other people are working on. So in the case of Revit, the next gen version of this is working with 2018.3 and newer. On Civil 3D, you're looking at 2020.2 and newer. And Plant 3D, this is working with with the current year's release. So as time goes on, the newer versions will continue to work with BIM 360 Design. Cool. Now, in terms of getting set up, one of the biggest issues that I come across with clients in terms of being able to utilize BIM 360 is the entitlement aspect of it. So what I mean by entitlement is that when you are managing your account, so you have the Autodesk account page, you need to ensure that if anyone is going to be opening up one of those three applications and working across the cloud, like opening up their content from BIM 360, they actually need to have an entitlement for BIM 360 Design. So rather than just inviting them to the project, that makes sure that they can see the project from the browser, but to be able to open it up from the authoring tool, like Revit, for example, whoever is the account manager will need to go here and then go into the user management, and then they're going to need to assign the BIM 360 Design seat. So you'll notice that design actually comes with a bunch of different aspects underneath it. So the services like cloud rendering, which you can choose to allow or disallow depending on how you want to manage things. But it also has the aspect for Civil 3D, collaboration for AutoCAD Plant 3D, Revit Cloud Work Sharing. all of those are a part of that design package. When you grant someone that entitlement, now they are going to be able to open up the files through that authoring tool. Now, your screen might not look exactly like mine. Autodesk is in the process of updating the user management, whether you're doing it by teams or groups or individuals, whether you have the classic interface, kind of like I'm showing now, or some of the newer ones based on the single user setup. The end result is going to be the same, though. You need to check the box for the application or service that you're granting, and in this case, it's going to be BIM 360 Design. Now, from there, in order to set up the service, what we need to do is actually turn these on. So what I'm actually going to do is hop into the service and actually turn this on for us. So I'm going to hop into BIM 360. There we go. So when we were in our project the last time, one of the things that we did was it came in and we created some folder structure. Now, what I need to do is actually turn on BIM 360 Design for my project. So I'm actually going to go into the project admin. I'm going to go to my services. And if you haven't looked at this in a while, this actually just got updated, much more user-friendly. And we can actually turn on classic services as well as next-gen services at the same time. But for right now, what I care about is my design collaboration. So I'm going to activate that service. Now, this will take a second. And essentially, now, perfect, already done. Now, what this is actually doing is it's turning on the ability to use that function for my project. Now, depending on what I'm working on, that's really all I need to do. It's not all I should do, but it's all I need to do. The reason why I say that caveat is that if I'm using Revit and I'm working by myself, meaning only with my company, so only the people from my office are going to be taking advantage of this. So maybe it has something to do with COVID-19. I want to make sure that everybody in my firm can work here, but I'm not coordinating with anybody outside of it yet. Perfect, that's fine. Now you can actually start working. But what I also want to do is start the actual setup of the Teams functions, basically all the parts of design collaboration that you would use if you're actually coordinating with other firms. It's easier to make sure that you've done all this from the get-go and then not use it than it is to not set it up and then need it later on and then have to kind of move things around. So what I'm actually going to do is come through here. I've activated the service. You can always deactivate things now as well. That's a new one. And I'm just going to refresh this so I have access to it. Back out and then back in. There we go. Give myself access to it. And now I have my design collaboration service here. Again, I'm in the project administration. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn on Teams. You can think of Teams as how I'm going to sandbox or group the different people that are going to be working on my project. So you might have one team for the architect, another team for the mechanical engineer, another team for the electrical engineer. You're basically creating the structure of the project. So each company or unit that's working on it has their area that they can focus in without worrying about sharing more than they need with the rest of the team. So in this case, I can say add team. I can always scan for new teams as well. What that actually does is it looks at the folder structure that's here and can say, oh, I see you've got files here. Do you want to turn that into a team? So if I say add team, by default, I want to start typing information in here. But if I already have folders created, I can also take advantage of that. So in this case, I can say, you know what? That Microdesk folder should be the Microdesk team folder. I don't want to make another one just because I already have that. So I'll say add team. And that's going to take the folder structure that's already there and turn that into the team folder. Now, at the moment when you create a project, what you have the ability to do is pull in a template from another project. So that template could include all the folder structure that we typically use. Now, at the moment, there isn't that kind of a setup for BIM 360 Design, but that is on the roadmap and should be coming shortly. So now I have a team for Microdesk, and let's say I'm going to have another team. And I'll say it's Acme Engineers. So I'm going to add that. So I'm going to have two teams on this project now. And I can always come back here and add more. I can also make changes to the color if I want to tie this to a standard that I have in the office or to whatever each team's company's logo is. And what I can do is I can take a look at the folders now. I can also manage my members and see what the permission level are. So everybody from Microdesk here has the ability to view and edit inside of that folder. I might need to give them more access so that way they can share it, or I might want to pull that back so only specific people on my project or on my team have the permissions to actually share content out. So I've created my two teams, and what I can actually do here is I'm just going to refresh again, and I'm going to see a couple of new folders. So the Microdesk folder was already here, but when I click on this now, I'm also going to see a new consumed folder inside of that. The Acme Engineers, that has a consumed folder as well, and I also now have a shared folder. Those folders, like the shared folder and the consumed, are done automatically as part of the BIM 360 design setup. You don't necessarily have to use them if you don't want them there. You can always delete them and then restore them later on if you do want them. They do have to stay the way that they are if you're going to take advantage of the full functionality of the BIM 360 design packaging process, which I'll touch on in just a minute or two. So I've got my BIM 360 design set up. I've added my teams to organize how I'm going to be working in it and to cordon off the different companies so they each have their own space to work. I can see the folder structure that was created. And if I now go to document management, to my waffle menu, I can see design collaboration. If I click on this, I'll be able to actually see what the service looks like. So this will actually see me currently acting as Acme Engineers. I'm an overall project admin, so I can act as the different companies. So now I'm acting as Microdesk, and I can see everything going on here. Now, one of the benefits of coming here is that I can manage my notifications. So I can say, do I want to get a notification every time a package is shared? And I'll go into a little bit more detail on this in just a minute. So I've set up and turned on the service. So now how do I actually use that service? No. First thing I want to do is set up our content. So inside of Revit, it's pretty easy. You have to actually be in the Revit application. And what you're going to end up doing is going to the Collaborate ribbon, and then there's going to be a Collaborate button on there. And I'm going to be turning on my work sharing and saying that I want to collaborate in BIM 360 document management. So this is essentially me turning on work sharing, just like in the old days. And now it's asking, do I want to do it locally, sort of traditionally, or do I want to do this in BIM 360 document management? Once I've done that, it will then show me the different projects that I have access to. So what hub am I putting it on? What project am I putting it in? What folder am I putting it in? So now I would navigate into that team folder that I either just created or turned into a team, and I can put my model in there. And once that's done, that central model will now be online for everyone to start working in and accessing. What we see some people do in the very beginning where they're not sure of how to utilize this is they're just going to drag and drop their central model to the cloud. That will not turn it into a cloud work shared model. You're just putting a Revit file online. That's fine if I'm just going to be using the cloud to mark up, to view, to make issues, or to use that file as a background file, something I want to link in. But if I'm actually going to be working on it in the cloud, I have to go through Revit like this to do that. Now, similar to the Revit workflow, if I'm using Plant 3D, what I need to do is be inside of Plant 3D. This process allows me to go to the Collaborate ribbon, and there's a Share Project. From there, I'll choose the project, and it'll start uploading that project to the cloud. So very similar in many respects to the way Revit does. And then while I'm working in that project, there's that check-in, check-out process. It goes through that. And the nice thing is, it also gives me details going on in the bottom left-hand corner. So I can see who worked in it last. Is the file I'm in editable? Who's checking in and working on it? So it gives me a good amount of feedback as to what's happening on that file while I'm in it. Now, Civil 3D is a little bit different, where I can go in here and I can do a file save as and then put it in the correct folder. It's almost easier just to actually set this up and use the desktop connector in Windows Explorer. If the folder structure is going to be consistent, so I'm not going to move things around, I can drag and drop all my content from my local drive or my local network drive, depending on where my content is, and move that into the BIM 360 folder structure. This ensures that everything is maintained. It'll keep my links and my pathing, and then it'll build the rest of the information in there from that. So unlike the Plant 3D and the Revit one, where I need to push the model up there from the software, Civil 3D, I can actually do that from an Explorer setup. So a lot easier and quicker to get rolling in some respects. Okay. Now, in terms of collaborating, and this part's going to be a little bit specific to Revit, there are a couple of different ways that we can work. And for anybody who's used collaboration for Revit, so C4R, the classic one, live linking is the one that everybody was familiar with, where you would have a direct link from the live working model. So for these examples, we've got the mechanical engineer on the left and the structural engineer on the right. And let's say I'm the structural engineer and I need to take the file from the mechanical engineer and link it in as a background. If I'm doing live linking, basically I'm going right to their working model. So if they sync to central and then I reload my link, I will immediately see their changes. Some of our clients prefer that workflow. They like seeing it that way. A lot of them, though, did not like that aspect of C4R, and Autodesk listened to that feedback and made changes. So we have three options in terms of how we can manage our linking and coordinating. So the other one is one I refer to as the relax process. So this takes advantage of some of the features in the BIM 360 design workflow, but keeps it a little bit more simplistic. So in this case, what's going to happen is the mechanical engineer, they're going to create a package, and I'll explain what this means in a minute from how you do it. So they create a package, and then what that does is it basically takes a copy of their working model and puts it in a different location. In this case, that file would then be linked from the shared folder into the structural model. So what you're working with is you're still working off of sort of like a classic workflow where, you know, I send you my backgrounds. So I now have a frozen background. Whenever the mechanical engineer is ready to share their work, they create a new package, and then it just updates my background. So it doesn't require any effort from me beyond that initial link. So I get to work on a specific version of the file. When they're ready to upload or update, they do that. Then my backgrounds are updated. Now, the other one that fully takes advantage of the features of BIM 360 design is a controlled process. So in this case, what happens is, again, the mechanical engineer creates a package. Now, that package doesn't automatically update or change my background, though, because what happens is I now need to review that file. So they send me their file, I have to look at it, review it, and approve it, basically. Once I've finished approving it, now that model is considered as consumed. It's pulling that model into my project. So that way, I'm not automatically getting changes to my background. So if me as a project manager, I want to control the files that my team gets. So let's say we had a coordination meeting last week and they said they would make changes. Before this file is utilized by my team, I want to review it to make sure that the changes I expect are done, or that there's nothing in there that I feel is going to cause problems. Once I've reviewed it and approved it, perfect, that background goes in. So in this case, what will end up happening, let me hop back into the cloud, there we go. So when I'm working inside of Revit or when I'm working in the cloud here, one of the things that I can actually do is come over here and say published. Now this aspect here that I'm talking about right now with the whole live linking, the relaxed or the controlled paths, that is specific to Revit right now. So what I can do is I can say I want to publish my models. So these two are both published already. But what this does is it takes whatever the latest state of my working model is. It ensures that when I'm in the browser, that's what I'm going to see. Now, when I want to share my file with another team, though, what I'm actually going to be doing is coming to the design collaboration window, like I'm in, and I want to hit this plus symbol over here. That essentially creates a brand new package. So you can think of a package as either like a submittal or deliverable. And I would go in here and I would choose what content am I going to add to this. So if I have Revit files, what Revit files am I sending? What views in that Revit file do I want visible in the browser? If there's additional documents, cut sheets, PDFs, specs, I can, attach them here. At the moment, I do not have the ability to add in AutoCAD files to the packages. Again, something on the roadmap. But this is where I would say, okay, this is the content that I want to send to the other company, and I'm going to put it all together so that way they get this. So I'm just going to switch to another project that already has a lot of this set up. So in this case, there we go. So this project has several teams. We got the infrastructure team, MEP, structure, and architecture. On most real projects, they're organized by the name of the company, not necessarily the discipline. But each of these circles is showing me a package that was created. Now, packages that are solid means that they were consumed. So in this case, that MEP package here, that was consumed by the architect. If I click on that circle, that's showing me a package which includes sheets and some 3D views from the MEP engineer that the architect did not consume or approve. So for whatever reason, we looked at this, we saw the files and said, you know what, I'm gonna hold off on working on that background. I'm gonna wait for some other changes. And then when the next package was released, that had what we were looking for, and we consumed that. Now, the workflows that I showed had a couple of steps in there. That might seem like it's a lot, but it's really not. So if you're going the relaxed package, somebody creates a package, they submit it, my background's automatically updated. If somebody is going the other workflow, all that happens is I come in here, I say, let's explore or even show changes. In which case, this will show me all the changes in the files from the previous package. So it makes it very easy for me to come in here and understand what changed. Now, in this case, it looks like a lot. They changed the whole file. But nice thing is I can go in here and say, you know what? If they changed the property value, I don't care. So maybe all they did was they changed everything and put it on a different work set. So I went from 3,700 different things that were modified down to 7. And if I click on some of these, that tells me, okay, it actually moved. Now, the nice thing is here, I'm looking at this, that explains, oh, it moved from here to there. It's actually showing me how that changed. But it's not just telling me it did change, it explains it and makes sure I understand what's happened. So I would go through this, review this, as long as it meets my needs and I'm okay with the changes, I say consume. And since it's not the first time this file has been linked in, it automatically just updates the previous. I don't have to do anything other than review it and approve it. Some projects, we don't want to have that kind of, some people feel it's a bottleneck. I don't want to have to look at it before my team gets it. So they go the relaxed route, where all it does is they make the package and my backgrounds are updated. Now, when we did this before, one of the things that I mentioned was that it was taking it from the shared folder or taking it from the consumed folder. What that means is that when a package is created, so let me actually hop over here. Once you create that package, the content in that package is automatically put into the shared folder. So every team that you have automatically has a folder in the shared folder. And every single time a package is created and content is shared, it gets placed here. So easy way just to link in this. Anytime the new package is made, you now have the new file. If what I want to do, though, is I want to have control over what my team works, then I look at my consumed folder. So in this case, these shows the architect has consumed files from the mechanical team and the structural team. And then every time that I approve or consume another model, it updates the version of this. This is one of those things that might seem like it's a lot, but in reality, you only have to do the setup of this once. And then from that point on, you're just reviewing the new files that you get. And it's pretty transparent. The nice thing here is that for people who are working in the authoring tools, whether it's Revit or AutoCAD or Plant 3D, the biggest change that a typical modeler or draftsperson has is where they open up their models from. I'm going to the cloud to open up the model. I'm going through this little dialog window. The rest of the tool is the same. It's just where the files are hosted. The setup, there's a few more things for an administrator to manage, but it's not much. And it only adds a few minutes just to get it all dialed in. And then you're off and running and you take advantage of all the other benefits that we talked about from the document management side of things. So once you've got that set up, I'll be able to view, mark up, share my projects, and then track all those changes and updates through the history of my project. Perfect. So I've been keeping an eye on the Q&A. I haven't seen anything come in yet. Are there any questions? Please feel free to drop them into the chat or into the Q&A window. A question here. BIM 360 Design, I said, only works with 2018.3. Will it not work with the earlier ones? So it's not so much that BIM 360 Design will not work with earlier versions of Revit. It's just that if you are going to be using the earlier version of Revit, you have to use the classic services. So that would mean the model is hosted on BIM 360 Team and not BIM 360 Document Management. And it would mean that you're using, different terms, basically, C4R instead of BIM 360 Design. It will work, you're just putting the model elsewhere. That's considered the classic service. Question here, what can you have multiple versions of Revit in the same project? If they are cloud work shared, no. You do have the ability to very easily update the project though. So if I hop back into the cloud for a second, and what I'm going to do is go into here, I've got my administration. One of the features that I have here is the ability to do a Revit cloud model upgrade. So if this project actually had all my Revit models in here, what I can easily do is just in the cloud, hit a button and run a test, see if I'm going to run into any problems with that upgrade, and then I can run the actual upgrade. So for some of our clients that are using BIM 360 Design, they might have 10 Revit models across all the different disciplines. You could have several hundred gigs worth of Revit models easily. And the amount of time it would take to do this traditionally, where, okay, I now need to take everything down, I need to upgrade them locally, and then I need to push them back up, could take, easy a full day. The benefit of this is that this is now done online and much faster. You're talking maybe minutes or 1 hour, but it doesn't require any effort on my part. So I go through here and I run the test. If there's any problems, it'll let me know what those problems are so I can deal with them ahead of time and plan for it. And then I tell it to run it, and it'll upgrade my project from 19 to 20 or 20 to 21. So that way I can easily manage that. If what I'm doing though is I'm uploading a model, I'm just dragging and dropping it to the cloud, you can have multiple versions of Revit. But when you're doing cloud work sharing, they do have to be the same release. Okay. A couple of questions here. Will Civil 3D work with Revit in the cloud? Depends on what you mean by work with. So you can link back and forth. You can have a Revit model that is pulling in the background from Civil 3D. You can be exporting from Revit into Civil 3D the coordinates with the plugins from Autodesk. There's a couple of tools that help coordinate your coordinates and information like that. If you're using InfraWorks, you can actually take the model from Revit that is hosted on BIM 360 Document Management and then link that into an InfraWorks model that's also hosted in the same project. So the workflows between the different tools every year are getting stronger and stronger. I mentioned before that there's a workflow now with the P&ID information from Plant 3D and Revit. So you can go back and forth using BIM 360 as well for that. Alrighty. Cool. So again, just want to let everybody know, today was the BIM 360 Design setup and usage. On the 18th of June, the next one is going to be model coordination. So there were just some really big releases for that, and we expect there's going to be a couple of releases right around the time when we talk about this. So we'll be able to touch on those and, excuse me, explain how those have actually changed some of the workflow and will benefit the users. In addition to the workflow series, a couple of other upcoming events. We're going to be talking with our CIO services team, going over how you can use Microsoft Teams to better coordinate and work with your companies and consultants. Excuse me. We're also going to be having a webinar that focuses on the new premium subscription. There's a lot of questions running around on how this is going to affect people, what benefits it has. We want to make sure that everybody is up to date and educated on what this really means. And that's going to be the 11th of June. Now, if anybody does have any questions, you want to reach out to us, please feel free to do so. We have our social media sites, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. We have a YouTube page. This webinar was recorded, and this will be posted to our YouTube page probably within the next day or two. But if there are questions, you want to tell us things that you want us to focus on, you're curious about more info, always feel free to reach out. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day. Cheers.